What is going on, everybody? It's the France, and we're here for NXT review for last night's NXT on July 24th, 2019. We're 3 weeks away from NXT Takeover Toronto 2, as Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano give us their stipulations for their match at NXT. We also had Bianca Belair versus Xia Li, Casey Catanzaro versus Io Shirai, Breakout Tournament, Angel Garza versus Jordan Myles, and in the main event, Keith Lee versus Damien Priest. Excellent episode of NXT this week. But before we get to that, let's talk about what WWE is looking to counter when it comes to AEW on TNT. Following WWE's deal with Fox to start airing on SmackDown Live on the network from October, there has been rumblings that we may see NXT on air on FS1, and now there's an interesting twist to that particular tale. Previous online reports claim that NXT may end up airing on FS1 Wednesday nights in a move that would see the black and gold brand go head-to-head with AEW's weekly TV show, as we know. I still think this is a big mistake because of the fact that there is going to be more people watching AEW over NXT. According to Dave Meltzer, if a deal is indeed struck up to have NXT on FS1, WWE is planning to use Raw and SmackDown talent on this program. A recent Fox meeting saw the idea of NXT on FS1 discussed as a possibility, and having NXT go up against AEW's weekly product could be a great move all around. No, it would not. For the smart wrestling fans, it would give them a generally tougher choice of which product to go watch live, which is BS because NXT is not live and AEW will be live. Weekly competition. Right now, there is also, and this is all irrelevant until WWE and Fox decide to pull the trigger on such NXT FS1 arrangement, and there's also one particularly hefty hurdle in the way of this ever being able to happen. Currently, the buzz is that AEW's weekly show on TV will air on Wednesday nights, possibly launching on October 2nd. That has been confirmed. The issue here is Fox is that FS1 already has Big East College basketball taking up the Wednesday night slot when in season. So basically, if this was to happen, then FS1 would preempt AEW NXT like 5 or 6 weeks, like half the year. Half the year would be Big East College basketball over NXT. They're already going to preempt the SmackDown one week in October for the World Series. What makes you think that they're going to put NXT over the Big East College basketball, which is already a bigger thing for them? The idea of AEW going head-to-head with NXT is definitely something that could be a shot in the arm for the wrestling world. And if WWE decides to have some select big-name main roster talents involved in NXT in a limited capacity, that would certainly be a major shot fired at AEW. Here is the problem. That is not something I want to see happen. You don't need a Roman Reigns. You don't need a Seth Rollins. You don't need a Dolph Ziggler. You don't need a Kevin Owens. NXT has the best wrestling on WWE television today. You have the Undisputed Era, you have the Velveteen Dream, you have Matt Riddle, you have Keith Lee, Damian Priest, Kushida. You have all these names, and you putting a Seth Rollins, a Finn Balor, a Roman Reigns, or any other big name on NXT is going to sacrifice the time that you already have to sacrifice to others. And you know what's great about NXT? Tonight's show ended with Damian Priest versus Keith Lee in the main event. NXT has not had a main event redo at all, probably ever, where it's like 2 weeks or 3 weeks in a row you see the same superstars in the main event. I mean, for a while there on Monday Night Raw, you had Baron Corbin in the main event every single week, Seth Rollins in the main event every single week, Roman Reigns in the main event every single week. It gets tiresome and boring. And if you do this with NXT, you're hurting NXT more than you're helping WWE. And NXT is not, like, a lot of people don't watch the network. People who want to see change, see difference, don't watch the network. They're waiting for AEW. NXT is going to get slaughtered by All Elite Wrestling, in my opinion. Like, the smart marks are not the ones that WWE and AEW need to appeal to. It's the casual fans. The casual fans, because the smart marks are going to pick Raw, SmackDown, NXT, or AEW. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's not the audience they need to build for. You need the casual fans. And if the casual fans want to watch Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley, Chris Jericho, the Young Bucks, and all that, what makes you think putting NXT is going to make that any difference? That is absolutely just going to make NXT a shell of its former self, especially if it's like, hey, look, there's Seth Rollins. He was on Raw. Let's go watch him on FS1. It's not going to help. NXT needs to stay on the network. It's a niche. It's perfect where it's at, and it needs to stay where it's at. Don't give me that, oh, it's going to get the smart marks. It's going to get the smart wrestling fans a choice, whether NXT or AEW. Well, with the way NXT is done right now, it's taped 4 or 5 weeks in advance, which this time, in this case, the NXT we're on right now was taped 6 weeks ago, or 7 weeks ago, or 5 weeks ago in advance. And when we get to the go home show to NXT Takeover Toronto, that was taped 8 weeks beforehand. AEW is going to be live every single week. NXT is taped and is probably going to be taped going forward. I would love to see NXT going live. I would love to see NXT get out of Full Sail. I think it's outgrown Full Sail, in my opinion. AEW going to FS1 would be the biggest mistake for NXT. NXT going to FS1 would be the biggest mistake for that brand. First off, WWE would have, I know Vince McMahon does not like to promote NXT. The Evolve pay-per-view they did the week going up to Fight for the Fallen on the same night, they promoted more on Raw and SmackDown in that 1 week than they ever do for NXT. NXT needs to stay on the network. It's much better there. We don't have to worry about long-ass commercials waiting for the talent. I remember in 2017 when they did the WWE week for Christmas, and they had NXT added on there. And watching that episode of NXT, and sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting for a commercial break to get over with so I can continue to watch NXT. Yes, I know that's what Raw and SmackDown have to deal with, but that's 2 hours. Having a 1-hour show is going to hurt NXT. Now, if they expand NXT to 2 hours, that even makes it worse, because that means Triple H and his team are going to have to work harder to get the show to be more flowing. Because they could take 2 episodes of NXT and mash them together and try and make it a show, but it's not going to work as well as they want it to. NXT should stay on the network. I don't care what anyone says. Oh, it would be great exposure for NXT. That could be the case, but NXT at the start is going to get slaughtered by TNT and AEW. FS1 is not in as many households as TNT. More people would have TNT over FS1, plain and simple. They have that show that's going to be starting on Tuesdays. Keep that where it's at. You do that. Do not bring NXT off of the network. It just doesn't need to happen. Also, Dominik Dijakovic has returned to the ring. Great to see him back. He has been out with, I believe, a meniscus tear, which is terrible. I mean, I remember earlier this year, Dominik Dijakovic and Keith Lee looked to be getting into a rivalry, in which went nowhere due to both getting injured. And of course, Dijakovic looked like he was going to get the match at Takeover 25 for the North American Championship. That, of course, did not happen because of injury. So they gave it to Tyler Breeze. Hope this guy can come back, and by the time we get to Takeover War Games, maybe Dijakovic can get that title shot that he should have got at Takeover 25, but it looks like they were building to Takeover 25 before the injury. Moving on to NXT for the week, we had the 2 out of 3 fall stipulations made for Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano. As I mentioned, Keith Lee versus Damien Priest, Casey Catanzaro versus Io Shirai, Jordan Myles versus Angel Garza, and much, much more. Last week we showed what happened last week, where Cole talked about his travels on his championship tour. He initially wanted to do it again, have a championship match against Twan Tucker. Johnny Gargano comes out as Twan Tucker says he didn't come alone, and they have a brawl. After the show went off the air, Regal then announced a Takeover Toronto 2. It will be Cole versus Gargano in a 3 stages of hell match, practically 2 out of 3 falls match. Gargano picks one stipulation, Cole picks the other, and Regal picks the last one. Jordan Myles versus Angel Garza was what we got to start the show off with. Angel Garza was so over on this night. I know they taped the breakout tournament completely over 2 days. Well, except for the finals, because the finals will be at Takeover. But my word, Angel Garza was over leg rover. I did also realize something too. If you watch Angel Garza make his entrance, and you see the guy who had like look the heavyset guy with the yellow shirt on with the red symbol on it, that is the same guy who was at Fight for the Fallen, who got into Kip Sabian's face and was yelling at him, and Kip Sabian tried to give the guy a kiss. That was the same guy. He's a clown. He was a clown on that night, and he's a clown in NXT's tapings. The match here, back and forth, Jordan Myles ends up picking up the win with a deadlift German suplex, and he got the deadlift up, and he hit him in the German suplex, and Garza looked like he just died, like he just like was done. After the match, though, Myles is he's celebrating in the ring, and we hear a scuffle over on commentary, and Shane Thorne just yanks Mario's headset off and wonders what the point of bringing in 8 new superstars when he's been here for 3 years doing work while these 8 guys were nowhere in sight. Thorne says he doesn't need a tournament. He'll break out on his own and heads off. He looks pissed as can be. I don't know where they're going with Shane Thorne. Of course, his partner left NXT about the end of last year, getting rid of breaking up the Mighty and TM61. So it's great to see. We'll see what happens with Shane Thorne. He looks to be taking in more. I gotta show everyone what I can still do, even though I've been here for 3 years, jumping off rafters, making memories at takeovers while these guys were nowhere to be found. Will we see him interject himself in the finals of the Breakout Tournament? We'll have to wait and see, but that is definitely something to look forward to. We see Gargano, he tells Adam Cole when he gets his family involved, it becomes personal. It's no longer about winning a title, it's about beating the hell out of Cole. He says, my stipulation is going to be something I've come accustomed to, a stipulation that I absolutely like. So at NXT TakeOver 20 at Toronto, Adam Cole, my stipulation is a street fight. And he walks off. So that is stipulation number, that should be second stipulation, especially with Adam Cole picks. Let's continue on here as we had Bianca Belair versus Xia Li. This one, you had Mauro say that these two are trying to settle a score. And I'm like, what score are these two trying to settle? KOD to Xia Li. Not much here. This match was basically just Xia Li getting her ass kicked by Bianca Belair. We did see a glam slam from Bianca Belair into Xia Li. Then she did a springboard somersault backflip onto Xia Li, but a KOD ends the match with a 1-2-3. Vignette of Killian Dane talking about his attack on Matt Riddle last week. And said Dane says Riddle isn't just anybody, he's somebody. He says this isn't MMA, it's Dane's world. There are no rules, and he can't wait to introduce Riddle to his world. Again, for anybody who thinks this was Matt Riddle getting punished for his Goldberg tweets or Goldberg messages, you people are fucking stupid. This was Killian Dane making a statement, and quite honestly, for somebody like Killian Dane to come out there and beat up Matt Riddle, who's got nothing going on right now, is just par for the course. It's a way to get this guy back on our radar, and this guy is going to sit there and do what he does. When will this match happen? Probably NXT after we get done with TakeOver. Hopefully not the Aftermath show, because the Aftermath shows really do nothing. But NXT TakeOver Toronto coming up soon, and I can't wait to see what these guys do after that. Then we go to a camera at the Performance Center, and Jessamine Duke is just getting out of the ring after a training session. There's a set of lockers there. She goes to the lockers, looks like she's gonna get some water, and Mia Yim comes up and just slams the door into Jessamine Duke. She beats the heck out of her and says, "Surprise, mother!" Takes her head and just bashes her off a table right there. Continues to beat her down, kicks her, beats her up, opens a bottom locker, puts her shoulder and arm into the locker, and then kicks it closed. So she just pretty much made Jessamine Duke's arm useless. I'm pretty sure we should be hearing from Shayna Baszler on this attack in the next few weeks. I'm surprised we haven't heard anything yet, not even a video package of her going off on Mia Yim. This is going to be a title match at NXT TakeOver Toronto, and it would not surprise me if they gave it to Yim, but the only reason they would give it to Yim at TakeOver Toronto is to get the title on to pretty much make her a transitional champion, losing the title to Io Shirai, which we'll talk about in a bit. North American champion Velveteen Dream comes to the ring. He talks about Roderick Strong, says he's hell of a man, but he's the only guy, but the only guy who can go all night. But he's not the only guy who can go all night. Dream continues that Strong isn't big enough to ride this ride. Says maybe there's someone else who is, and they should make their voice heard. And out comes Roderick Strong. Dream does not look happy. By the way, he's wearing a black leather jacket with his picture of himself from when he wore the Hollywood version of him at a couple takeovers ago on his back, and so really nice video right there. Strong comes out and says, "He knows why you've been ducking me. I know why you've been ducking me. You're scared." He says he is the most deserving challenger and could take Dream's title like that. Says it should be him versus Dream at Takeover, and out comes the Bruiserweight for the first time since I believe War Games last year. Pete Dunne comes in, goes right to Strong, and just snaps his finger, and Strong bails. That is it for him. Dunne turns his attention to Dream to check out his title. Looks at it like, yeah, I want that. Dream looks like, nah, and he leaves. But they talk some shit off microphone, and that was that. Back from break, Strong goes to William Regal about his title opportunity. He's not happy that Dunne is trying to take that spot. Regal doesn't disagree about Strong being a challenger, and Regal then says Dunne is going to be in the mix of NXT for a bit as he's had a conversation with Johnny Saint. Regal says it will be Dream versus Strong versus Pete Dunne at Takeover. Strong's not happy about this because, yes, he did beat Velveteen Dream in that 6-man tag match a couple weeks ago. He wants that one-on-one shot, but he's like, fine, you want this? Fine. But I want Pete Dunne next week, and he will get Pete Dunne next week. Again, another great match, and that is going to probably be your main event next week. And this is, like I said, another thing great about NXT is that the main event scene changes constantly. There's almost never a time that we see the same main event over and over and over again in NXT. Main roster, you'll see Roman versus somebody, or Seth versus somebody, or Baron Corbin versus somebody, or Kevin Owens versus somebody in the main event again and again and again. I mean, hell, you had Kevin Owens versus Dolph Ziggler last week, and then you had Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns this week. Change it up. Io Shirai versus Casey Catanzaro. This match was nothing. We got a big drop kick, knees to the face in the corner, delayed backbreaker. Out comes Candice LeRae to beat up on Io Shirai. She injures her, lands a big suicide dive. LeRae grabs a chair and chases off Io Shirai as she bails away. And that was that. I don't know when we're going to see these two have a fight in the ring. But I think we're going to not have a normal singles match. That's got to be some kind of like a street fight or no disqualification match. The chairs are involved, so let's get this into a no disqualification match. Adam Cole is backstage, and he picks his stipulation for his match against Gargano and makes it a regular one-on-one match. The stipulation that I beat you at NXT TakeOver New York, and the stipulation I beat you at NXT TakeOver 25. Says he's already beaten Gargano, and says, why change it up? After a minute, he says Johnny Gargano likes to call himself Mr. Johnny Wrestling, huh? Well, after TakeOver Toronto, he's not going to be able to do that anymore. And that's undisputed. He also mentioned about, before he talked about that, how it's funny how management keeps trying to screw the Undisputed Era over. First you have the Roderick Strong, the triple threat match with Roderick Strong and Pete Dunne and Velveteen Dream, and now you have this thing. Street Profits as well, mentioning them as well. So there's that. Keith Lee versus Damien Priest. This was a fun match. Keith Lee again amazes you every time you watch him wrestle. He actually got a jumping, leaping, like spin kick off that did not hit Damien Priest, but definitely a feat of awesomeness for Keith Lee. Another part in this match, you had Damien Priest with a tope con hilo to the outside, but Keith Lee caught him in mid-air. Going for a powerbomb. Priest gets out of that. Both get back in the ring. Priest actually showed that he is more heelish than babyface. I guess he's a heel. Uses the ref as a shield, but gets the Cyclone Boot, Rolling Cutter, 1, 2, 3, and Keith Lee goes down after an excellent match between these two. Keith Lee did not win, but Keith Lee again impressed as always. Damien Priest with the win, and that was NXT. NXT again just showing you that they are the cream of the crop in WWE, and there's nothing main roster can do. Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman are not going to be able to save Monday Night Raw and SmackDown Live. They need to take from NXT and borrow what they're doing, and I don't mean bring everybody up. Don't bring up the Street Profits, Undisputed Era, like Velveteen Dream, Matt Riddle. Take what they're doing and how they run their shows and run that as Raw and SmackDown, and SmackDown and Raw might get better. Hit that subscribe button, comment down below, like or dislike this video. Find me on Twitter at The Frauds Club. Find me on twitch.tv/The Frauds Club as well. And I'll see you guys on Saturday for Unscripted Smackville. I don't know if I'm going to run that on Sunday or not, but we'll have to wait and see. Until then, my name is The Frauds, and I'll see you guys later.